في سبيل الله نودي من أبواب الجنة يا عبد الله هذا خير. فمن كان من أهل الصلاة دعي من باب الصلاة، ومن كان من أهل الجهاد دعي من باب الجهاد، ومن كان من أهل الصيام دعي من باب الريان، ومن كان من أهل الصدقة دعي من باب الصدقة. قال أبو بكر رضي الله عنه: بأبي أنت وأمي يا رسول الله، ما على من دعي من تلك الأبواب من ضرورة، فهل يدعى أحد من تلك الأبواب كلها؟ قال: نعم، وأرجو أن تكون منهم. متفق عليه. Abu Hurairah radiallahu anhu narrates that the Messenger of Allah sallallahu alayhi wasallam said, whoever spends a pair in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he will be called from the gates of Jannah, O servant of Allah, this is better. And so whoever is from the people of prayer, he will be called from the gates of prayer. And whoever is from the people of struggling in the path of Allah, he will be called from the gate of struggling in the path of Allah. And whoever is from the people of fasting, he will be called from the gates of Rayyaan. And whoever is from the people of charity, he will be called from the gates of charity. Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu said, may my mother and father be sacrificed for you. Those who are called for these gates will stand in need of nothing. Will anyone be called from all those gates? The Prophet ﷺ replied, yes, and I hope that you will be one of them. Narrated by Al-Bukhari and Muslim. So this hadith really just shows us the vastness of Al-Jannah. A lot of times, one of the things that sort of I've seen in communities and also amongst individuals that creates a bit of a problem or friction is people want everyone to be like the same, like the robot. Like, this is me, whatever I'm doing, you should be doing, and it's just like there should be no individuality. And this hadith just shows how every single person may have a different way to really just love and connect themselves to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Now in this hadith, the gates don't talk about the fara'id. For example, everyone should be praying 5 times a day. Everyone should be fasting the month of Ramadan. Everybody should be doing giving zakat and making that certain struggle that's enough to keep them away from the disobedience of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and closer to Allah. So there's a bare minimum that everyone should be doing. But on top of that bare minimum, people will do different a'mal, different deeds that get them closer and connect them to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For some people, that's prayer. And they enjoy prayer, and it's just easier for them to just start salat and just talk about to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. For some people, when they fast, it gets them this focus that they're able to do more for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala than when they're not fasting. For some people, it's a constant struggle that they put themselves into where they sacrifice more and more. And some people, it's charity. Everyone has a different thing where, aside from the bare minimum, the fara'id, the obligatory acts, they do more and more to get closer to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And for everyone now to call each other to be from do the same exact thing. I'm doing this, you do this, and that's it. And we're not talking about the fara'id again. Then that's what this hadith sort of showed, that it doesn't have to be like that. So everyone has their own connection to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and just certain deeds just resonate with certain individuals a lot more than other deeds. Or some people don't have the ability to. For example, someone may not be able to give sadaqah because of their financial situation. Some people may not be able to fast, extra fast, because of their health. Some people may not be able to struggle because of whatever situation they may be in. So regardless, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala leaves these gates open that, okay, if you can't do one, you can still do something else. On the or even if you can do all of them, there's just a certain one that you just put a lot of your time in and do extra acts of it. So we should be very careful when we're trying to make people and bring this type of conformity, which is different than actually having and being on the same page. A believer, we as a ummah, as a nation, we are all individuals, and in that individuality should be very strong. But that individuality should come to make the whole. It's not like I'm an individual, leave me alone. I don't want to talk to you. I don't want to be this. I'll do whatever I have to, but leave me alone. That's called just like secluding oneself, even if it's for the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, where they avoid confrontation or they avoid just communication with other people. That's not allowed in Islam. And even if someone does take that path, the Prophet ﷺ lets us know that this is better, to be able to mingle and talk to one another and interact, and this person helps that person, this person, okay, there's a problem, you solve it. That's a much higher route to take, instead of seclusion and being secluded all to yourself in one corner and nobody talks to you and you don't talk to anyone and you focus on your amal. So the Prophet ﷺ says, whoever spends a pair in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he will be called from the gates of Al-Jannah. And over here, the pair could be something where you're actually spending, like scholars would say, like a pair of rides that you may give to someone to go out in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, money, dates, whatever your a pair could be. But then they also say it doesn't have to be just something, an object like that. It could also be an act, like a pair of rakats, 2 rakats that you're doing for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, 2 days of fasting that you're doing for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's why after saying that whoever does a pair, spends a pair in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or does 2 acts in the path of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, he will be called from the gates of Al-Jannah, or she will be called from the gates of Al-Jannah. That this is better. This gate is better for you. What did you do? Was it focus the acts that you did? Was it salat? Was it fasting? Was it charity? What was it? Whatever it is, that gate will call that person. And the first thing they'll call him, they're going to say, "O servant of Allah." This is at that time, you just got to think on the Day of Judgment. Everyone's in stress. Everyone's going through all kinds of problems. There's one salvation, and that's if you get close to Allah, if Allah's pleased with you. And if Allah's pleased with you, that's it. Okay, this anxiety just goes away, the stress goes away, the fear, everything goes away. Why? Because you know the one that's in charge of it all is pleased with you. And if over here they call that person by a name that's connected to Allah and say, look, you're a servant of Allah. Imagine the relief that people have when they're called the servant of Allah. The joy that they get when they're called the servant of Allah. That the peace and tranquility that gets just from that alone, when so much has just transpired with the Day of Judgment and all of that, and now it's like, you're done, you're the servant of Allah. You're stamped as a servant of Allah. And then after that, we're called, and the people who are called the servant of Allah, they're called according to what they spent in the path of Allah. You're from the people of charity, you go this way. People of this, and there's 8 different gates, everyone being called to these gates. And there's different names, and they say Bab al-Dhikr, different gates that are there, that are a total of 8, that everyone will go through. Now, when it comes to the gates, there's one specific gate that we see sort of stands out. For example, people who pray are called from the gates of prayer. People who give charity will be called from the gates of charity. But people who fast will be called by a specific name, gate named by Rayyaan, which is not the gate of fasting. It's not called the gate of fasting. It's called the gate of Rayyaan. Right away, it should click to us like, oh, everything was named after the act except for fasting. It's called Rayyaan. And Rayyaan is derived from a word which means like quenching one's thirst, to fulfill one's thirst, and to drink from a well. It's right away connected to what we go through in the month of Ramadan. That's the hardship. And this gate, as if this gate saying, listen, I'm here to ease all of that hardship that you went through. Everything that you went through, you're going to now get rewarded for it. All those times you went through in the world where you were thirsty, You wanted to drink water, but you didn't because of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's gonna be now taken care of as you walk in through this gate. Now, on top of that, after hearing all the different gates, you look at the thinking and the thoughts, the perception of the companions of the Prophet ﷺ. Over here, Abu Bakr radiallahu anhu. Now, he even says that, listen, if any person goes through any one of these doors, he doesn't need anything. But is there a possibility that someone can walk through all different gates of Al Jannah? That you can see that desire, that wait, is there a chance that I could do all of it? Not because it's a checklist, but he really wants to focus. And Abu Bakr who is one of those people that did not let any opportunity of good pass him by. There's one simple hadith, I'll give you just a quick gist of it, where the Prophet ﷺ, he says, has anyone done anything, like for example, the 4 different acts, buried, went to a janazah, helped with a janazah, is fasting that day, is helped, visited a sick person, and fed a poor person. And he was asking this right after Salat al-Fajr. So when he was asking this, some Sahaba were like, we haven't done it, but inshallah we will be. And all of those, Abu Bakr was like, yes, I did it. On my way to Fajr, someone passed away, I heard, and I went and performed the janazah. There was a sick person I visited. And he did all this. It means, what time was he up? And he's taking care of these needs as they go. I mean, obviously, it's not like today's society where it's much more, everything's done systematically. At that time, it's like, it's not like that. There's no addresses on the house. Everybody just knows everyone. Everyone knows what's going on with the news of other people. And Abu Bakr anhu, he knew what was needed from individuals before anybody else even knew. When he passed away, people came out like, what happened? Someone used to always help me at this time. He's not coming to visit me anymore. And other people start saying, someone used to help me out with the finances, with food. They stopped helping. Is everything okay? That person hasn't come for a while. Then all of the deeds of Abu Bakr who after he passed away started to show up, like, whoa, this guy used to do a lot, mashallah. So he's asking this question, and when the Prophet asked those questions after Fajr, he's the only one that did it. Now he's asking this question over here. The Prophet said, yes, there will be people that can do that. Now, this opens a door for every single one of us, because the Prophet says, and I hope that you are one of them, means that there will be other people as well to do so. From the time of the Prophet ﷺ until the Day of Judgment, people can rise up to the occasion and be from those people that walk through all gates of Al-Jannah. The other thing I want to point out is the Prophet ﷺ, his quality of always looking at every companion and raising him to his highest potential, or her highest potential. We cannot put people down. We cannot bring them down and limit them. People want to be a part of a community. People want to be a building block within that community. It is not our job to be like, no, we don't need you. The Prophet ﷺ would put everyone up. What can you do? Come. What can you do? Come. And anybody that could do anything, the Prophet ﷺ would accept. Some people would come with just like a bag of dates for charity, while other people would give so much. The Prophet ﷺ never looked or treated them any differently. And there were people where the hypocrites, they looked at somebody who gave just a little bit and said, look at this guy, he's not doing anything. What is that? What's that going to do? And them mocking that person, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, no, you're the one that's going to be mocked. But the Prophet ﷺ accepted everyone's contribution in any way. And that's the only way that we're going to get everything to progress, whether as a community, or as a society, or as an ummah. That if every single person is involved, if there are only a few people running a masjid, or there are only a few people standing up within a community, or in society, or in the nation, then you'll see the situation is the way it is. No masjid should be empty at all. I mean, right now it's locked, so we can't really do much about it, but this is a good chance for us to evaluate and think about why it is empty. No masjid should be empty. And if we have work, school, okay, that's fine. Fajr and Isha should not be empty. But if we're having only a few people, if we're talking about one person is responsible for that, well, that's the case. If every single person comes and puts their ideas, brings their viewpoints, brings in some contribution, and lets everyone works together, it is enough. It will be enough, even if it's a little. It doesn't have to be that now every single person has to come and give a certain amount of hours every day. That's the whole beauty of everybody working together. If you have 500 people in a community, everybody doesn't have to work a couple of hours a day, or donate or contribute a few hours a day, or even thousands of dollars every month. If there's 500 people, families in a community, then all of that can be dispersed. That everyone can bring, but they bring that effort and that contribution on a consistent basis, and then you'll see that all of a sudden this community will flourish. Kids will have programs to be involved in. Families can come together and take benefit. Husbands and wives can have programs to help them their love flourish. Everything can start building, and then that community just starts to become better and better. And now not only is that community getting better, but they become a source of benefit for everyone else. But if it's not the case, where everyone's not involved, and there's a few people, either only them, they're the only ones doing it, or they're the only ones doing it and not letting others be involved, then we get into situations where everyone will be to themselves. And who are we left to? The Prophet ﷺ said, we're left to the hungry wolf, the devil, there to come and pick ourselves. And then we start thinking, I'm the only one going through this problem, or my family's the only one going through this problem, our relationship is the only one that's going through this, maybe someone else is better, maybe some other family is better, and all these weird thoughts come because we think we're suffering all alone. But as a community, when we're there, we start to realize, okay, this is a problem we're all facing. How can we help each other? How can we all help all of our kids? How can we help that make sure all relationships grow stronger every day, families grow stronger every day? So this is just us looking at those. Now, if everybody has their specific gate that they'll walk through, inshallah, there's many people from amongst us that walk through all the gates. But if all of that comes together now, and that individuality comes together and comes and becomes a part of the whole, now we're going to have a progressive community. So, inshallah, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala make it easy for all of us. May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala forgive us for all of our shortcomings. Jazakumullahu khairan for joining us. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.